Inviting me back, and I love seeing you here, Vicki and Bill. So nice to meet you. But if you would just share your name, maybe where you retired from, and where you call home now, that'll help us kind of get a sense, or help me get a sense of who I'm sharing this time with. And anyone can start.
My name is Philip Cook, but I want to say I think you know my son, Brandon Cook.
Of course. Bethany Fellows. Amazing. Very nice to meet you.
That's the connection.
Okay.
I'm retired.
Very good. Very good.
Mike Gatton retired from Hurstbourne Christian Church. And, well, I tried to retire. But I'm back at Newburgh Christian now, doing the interim there. So I was to get them through Christmas, and that was 4 Christmases ago, so anyway, but I call Hurstbourne home.
Yes, of course. Very good.
I'm Reggie Gentry. I retired from Eastern State Hospital.
And a lot of people wish you completely get retired.
And you call home where now?
Georgetown.
Georgetown. Wonderful.
I'm Bob Stauffer. I'm in Richmond now, and that is where my last congregation was, my last settled pastor was. I did a good many interims after that. But I also was married at Eastwood Christian Church
Oh, nice.
many eons ago.
Very special. Always in a room full of disciples, there's just a degree or two of separation, huh? Very good.
My wife was working with Jim Harber when he was the pastor. He was working for a few years there as children and youth minister.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
I'll continue this table. Jerry Shepherd, retired from First Christian Church Danville.
Nice.
But as I mentioned to you a few minutes ago, I was at South Elkhorn Christian Church for 23 years before that, and I am back at South Elkhorn as a parishioner now.
Mark Anderson, and I retired from Ephesus Christian Church in Foneswood, Virginia, from the Northern Neck. Someday God will get there. And I recently, back in July, finished a 2-year interim with Highland Christian Church. Had a great time with a great group of people. I live in Lawrenceburg now.
Okay.
I'm David Blundell, retired from Crestwood Christian Church in Lexington 30 years ago. I'm now living in a senior living facility in Lexington, Legacy Reserve on Manowar Boulevard.
That's right.
I've done a number of interims, several, most here in Kentucky, and well, in fact, all here in Kentucky. I had pastorates around Kentucky and in Alabama.
Very
But
good.
I retired several years ago.
I'm a Laverne Brumley, and my husband is retired from Lawrenceburg First Christian Church. And I was an educator, and I live in Lawrenceburg.
I'm Debbie Sidis. I'm with him. He retired from Ashland First Christian as associate and minister of music and worship, and I'm retired as executive director of the shelter, the homeless shelter in Ashland. So, and that's about 3 years ago when we retired. Yeah.
You still live
And we still live in Ashland. We built a house there, but we're also attending the Episcopal Church because he can't stay retired.
doing the music.
Yeah, you're doing the music.
Very good.
Church there, Calvary Episcopal.
I'm John Craycraft. Most of my career was as a Navy chaplain or working with the chaplaincy with the Department of Defense.
Wow.
And we've been splitting our time living between Fort Walton Beach, Florida and Lexington, originally from Lexington. And but most recently we decided to spend most of our time here.
I'm Vicki Torres,
Bill Shiphorst, retired from Hurstbourne Christian Church in Woodland, still living in Louisville.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you all so much for sharing, and thank you for having me today. Larry, can I close the screen, or does it need to stay open?
You can close it, you can throw it away.
Larry was a fast friend when I moved to Woodland, and you know what that's like to be the new kid on the block and your first solo call. So thank you, Larry, for the ways that you have walked with me and continue to do that. I came from Nashville, like I said. I had graduated from Vanderbilt and was serving as an associate at a really amazing Eastwood Christian Church, but I knew that it was time to find the next place. And as soon as I heard about Woodland, I thought, oh, I've got it. Yes, my grandmother's called me into ministry, and the one who raised me primarily and first called me into ministry, she said, Christy Joe, you might just make a pastor one day. And I said, oh, Granny, you're confused. She raised me on Woodland. That was the name of her street. So when I got my first call, I said, okay, God, I accept. Well, we were negotiating pre-pandemic, but I arrived at Woodland right at the beginning of the pandemic. My first Sunday that I had announced that I was leaving Eastwood was our first virtual Sunday. So you can imagine. So I arrived here in Lexington, and we had pivoted to Zoom worship, and we did that for our first year of ministry together. We all learned on the fly how to build the airplane in the sky, and all of you have done that in your own unique ways, but this was my unique way of learning. And we found it to be a really powerful ministry tool, actually, because after worship, each Sunday morning we would have a fellowship question. A get-to-know-you question that was simple and easy, but it helped us get to know who we actually worshiped with. The congregation later told me that they know each other better than they ever have before because of our time worshiping on Zoom. Well, you can imagine that I was one of the only people in the building at the time when we were all sheltering in place. But Woodland had been honest about the building feeling like an albatross around their neck. They had been asking the question since the 80s, I was told, what do we do with this beautiful historic building that continually has maintenance problems? We are a small and mighty church. However, our operating budget is going to our best fixes, but they continue. So, as we were learning that church is not a physical building, it's actually the people, and since we were at home, I suggested to my leaders that we hire an architect group to come in and survey the bones, the inside and the outside of the building, just so we know what we're working with. Larry and I could come up with a long laundry list of issues of the building, whether it was the elevator that quit working or the HVAC. Y'all know, right? So the architect report came back in May of 2021. So this was just pretty much at our year mark, a year anniversary. And the architects came back with this beautiful color, many pages detailed of the bone structure of our building inside and out. If you are fascinated by these things, you can just pass it around and look as you please. But this was our writing on the wall. This survey showed us that we needed over $1 million to get baseline repair. This is not to do any type of renovation. This is not to become ADA compliant, to actually have an elevator that's big enough to fit a wheelchair, for example, to get to our sanctuary on the second floor. This is just baseline minimum. Our leaders could have seen this as an emergency, and instead they chose to see it as an opportunity to emerge into something new. We heard the prophet Isaiah say, I am doing a new thing. Do you not perceive it? I will make a way in the wilderness and rivers in the desert. However, we had no idea what God was up to or what our new thing would be. So, in the summer of 21, our elders and our board began discernment circles, actually at Larry and Kathy's house. And we started asking the hard and holy questions. God, where are you guiding us? how can we be faithful stewards to this historic property that we so love? After the elders and the leadership started asking these faithful questions, we then invited the whole church. Again, we're still worshiping on Zoom, so we have large congregational meetings, discernment circles, for months and months. And everyone was very clear that the ministry of Woodland could thrive no matter what, that we felt clear about our mission to do justice, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with God and with each other. And so the church decided to put all options on the table. We knew that we had to explore all options. So we talked to real estate developers. We have 3 parcels of land. They said, do not separate your land, keep it all together. And that was very helpful information. We met with one property developer who does affordable housing in Lexington, but it wasn't quite a fit. One evening, in my sleep, I had a dream. I very rarely remember my dreams, but this one caught my attention. I was in our elder meeting room with 2 of our elders, and we were looking at each other in my dream like, what are we going to do? And Janet Brumfield, a lifetime Woodland member, looked at me and very matter-of-factly said, the angels will guide us. And I woke up from my sleep. This is not what my friends hear from me ever. This is just how God began to speak. So, just a little while after we had explored these other opportunities, my chair of elders at the time is a UK mental health therapist. He had a client in his office, and Steve just happened to mention to him this architect report that Mark is holding and the news that we had just learned at Woodland to his client. He said, you know, my family owns a property group in town. You might be able to partner together. And then when they went into their therapy session, Steve told his client, who I call Angel W, Angel W, you cannot go further in your healing journey until you heal your wound with God and the church. Would you be willing to meet with my pastor? And Angel W said yes. So I go to meet Angel W at a coffee shop, and we walk in and we're matching. He's wearing green pants and a black shirt, and I'm wearing green pants and a black shirt. And we laugh and we say, well, I guess we are supposed to be here. And I learned of his story that included growing up at Lexington Catholic School, going to Southland Christian Church, being raised under a very conservative theology, coming out gay as a child, and being sent to conversion therapy. So in his late 30s, he found himself in therapy on a fast track of addiction that was life-threatening. And he was ready to get out of the cage that had formed around him because of toxic Christianity. And that's how he found his way to my chair of elders mental health therapy office and to the coffee table with me. So we started shaking that cage and exploring other understandings of God and theology. And we continue to walk that path together, and I can happily say that Angel W is now in recovery. He has shifted his energy to doing marathons, and has also been very public with his story, including sharing his story of how he found his way to Woodland for the first time at an AA group that was meeting in our fellowship hall. So it feels like a full circle story that Angel W happened to catch wind of our need of $1 million to get baseline. And we then meet with his brother, who's the vice president of Winterwood Incorporated. Angel W, his name is Fred. Fred and Zach, they're brothers. They had this vision that Woodland could keep our historic building on our property at the corner of East High and Kentucky Avenue in Lexington, and also partner with them to provide 38 units of affordable housing for seniors within our historic building and also in our grassy lot next door. And there was no question. We said, yes, immediately, this is the new thing that God is calling us to. And just as the Holy Spirit would have it, in Advent of this same year that all of these pieces are coming together, but not quite yet, our theme for Advent was housing the holy, exploring how Mary housed the holy in her womb, but how we are invited to house the holy. Little did we know this partnership would truly begin coming to life. It's been 3 years in the making. You can imagine all of the details and the fine-tuning and clearing out a building that has been occupied for 100 years. But we feel that at this time and this place, in our country, in our world, in our communities, that the good news of God's limitless and unconditional love needs to be shared and shined as brightly and as loudly as possible. And we believe that this is a grand opportunity to do that and even more. We have dreams of working with our seniors and providing social services and physical therapy opportunities and partnering with UK grad students, not only for those things, but also music and etc. This partnership has allowed us to expand our vision for ministry in ways that we never thought was possible, but it's only because of the power of community. Believing that what we have to share is important, and that if we invite others to share with us, we can become stronger than ever before. So what's unique about this project is on every floor of our historic building, next to our ministry offices, so for example, next to my office will be an affordable apartment for someone. Right outside of the sanctuary where our Sunday school classroom used to be will be an apartment for someone. So on every floor there will be ministry space and also 2 to 3 apartments, making 8 in our historic building and then 30 in the grassy lot. We just broke ground the end of January, and because of the grace of God and the power of community, our $1 million need turned into a $14 million project that the community of Lexington, that the state, that the Historic Society, all of these community partners believe in this vision of Woodland Christian Church becoming the mother church of Lexington, Kentucky, centered around healing, mind, body, and spirit across generational differences. So we believe that we know that seniors suffer from loneliness and isolation. Well, what happens when you integrate seniors into a church community that's right across the street from a park? Can you imagine what might be possible? So now we're in the phase of dreaming about what ministry offerings we will be able to offer not only our residents, but our seniors within our community. And they have given us the timeline of worshiping next Easter, so just a year from now in our historic sanctuary. There's lots of work to be done before that, but we will see and trust the divine timing of that. We have been in our temporary location for almost a year, because as the Holy Spirit has been all over this, our last worship service in our historic building was Pentecost, when the Holy Spirit came and gave us the power of community to do even greater works than Jesus. Jesus said, I've come to show you how to do this, and you will do far greater things than me. I have shown you the way. So we are learning as best we can as we take each step forward. Now we're in the process of, for example, learning that what we thought we would find under our sanctuary carpeted floor would be fine hardwood that we would restore. Not the case. So we are now working to figure out what our space will look like, and reconfigured furniture and whatnot, since our blueprint of our ministry space will shrink significantly. But what we were also aware of is that we have more than enough space to share abundantly with our partners. Our traditional fellowship hall that we have used when we moved from Zoom back into the building when the pandemic was clear enough, we had already gotten this architect report that showed delamination in our ceilings. So the day before the architect group came in, on the third floor, there was a 5-foot section of the ceiling that just gave way. It just took its last breath. It wasn't water damage or anything, it just said, yes, you're asking the right questions, you're taking the right steps. So we knew that we could not move back into the sanctuary to worship safely, that the balcony is high, and if a ceiling chunk that large would fall, that would not be good. So we moved back into the fellowship hall, worshiped there until we moved to our temporary location. And what a journey, right? The only 2 words that I can describe it is wild and holy. Wild, out of the box. We would never imagine that this is what our journey would be, but it's bigger and bolder and brighter than we could have ever dreamed on our own. And so the apartments, I was able to name, they had come up with the flats at Woodland. I said, you know, if we're gonna be a model church and have this cutting edge model of ministry, you know, other churches we know of have done apartments on their site, on campus, but we are not familiar with any church that has integrated housing and ministry space side by side in the integration model that we have developed. So here are, if you are interested in blueprints, this will go floor by floor to show you the new plan of what the sanctuary will look like, what each meeting room will look like, but this will kind of give you an idea if you read these things. I've had to learn this on the fly as well. But as you can imagine, we are in the midst of great change and continue to trust that God's vision is always bigger for us if we just continue to listen to the Holy Spirit, but most importantly, share our resources with one another. I'm going to pause here and ask if there's any questions before I check my notes to see what all I missed.
I've got a question.
Mm-hmm.
Has everybody joined in who is a part of the church? Have you had people say, well, that's not my vision, and drift off? And have you have other people come in that say, oh, this is fantastic, I love it that a church is doing this? What kind of
Yes,
change?
excellent question, Jerry. To my knowledge, no one has said this is not going to work. As soon as people started hearing that we could stay on our historic property and also expand our mission to serve an immediate need, we know the importance of affordable housing, and especially for seniors, it's really devastating, the statistics on what is needed in Lexington. Everyone that I'm aware of, now you know how that goes, it doesn't always get to us, right? But folks were very excited that we could have this opportunity. And then, yes, people who have heard about what's going on at Woodland through the grapevine and through the news have come, and we have had a number of people join to support this new vision since it's been brought to life, which has been very encouraging. Mm-hmm.
Wasn't it pretty much?
Going with that question, did you have anybody to bulk, that is, stop or question moving from a goal of $1 million to $14 million?
Great question. The 14 million is what was gifted to us. We had to do nothing except surrender and say we need help. Also, what's important to note about this project and partnership is that we are entering into a land lease. So we will still own our land. We will have no property expenses. And we didn't have to raise the $1 million. We were just said we needed help, and $14 million came. So no one balked at that.
They have to raise it from the congregation.
That's correct. However, we did know that not everything was going to be covered in this $14 million. Now, it's hard to imagine that, but when you start doing historic renovations, that gets very costly. So we knew that there were some items that would not be covered. For example, we have a vision of our sanctuary becoming a performing arts space. Woodland's sanctuary is absolutely stunning, and when I was interviewing and I first saw it, it took my breath away because it reminded me of the Ryman in Nashville that's called the Mother Church, that only, has concerts and whatnot. But I thought, this could be a beautiful venue for Lexington. Well, the more that I learned, Lexington is growing exponentially. in music and restaurants, in every area, Lexington is growing. So because of that, we wanted to update to the 21st century. You can imagine what was in the sanctuary before the pandemic. So we have state-of-the-art lighting, sound, and video that we knew that we would need to raise money for, and also reconfigured ministry space furniture because our room size is shrinking so much. So we have just raised over $200,000 for a capital campaign that will go towards these items. And we know that we can't stop there, that we will need a little bit more than that. But people have been very excited to be part of this vision and to give generously and abundantly. So Woodland has created history with how fast they've been able to raise for a capital campaign because of the vision and the excitement there. Mhm.
What was your average worship attendance when you began your ministry?
You know, that's a really good question, because this was as soon as it started on Zoom, right? So on Zoom, we would see maybe 30 to 40 people every Sunday. And those squares sometimes had 2 people and families, or sometimes just 1, but 30 to 40. Then when we moved back into the fellowship hall, we got to 40 to 50 that we were averaging. And then when we moved, we now average 50 to 60 on a Sunday. That's almost seating capacity for our small temporary location. And we've also heard from some folks in the church, this might be familiar, folks said, well, we're not going to return to worship until you're back in the historic sanctuary. Well, we went to the basement, and then we went to a temporary location, and we'll be there in a year. So I'm very curious to see the continued growth as we move back into our historic building. Small and mighty is something that we're now changing to saying growing and mighty, as a number of people can find us off the beaten path because of this story and building project. Mm-hmm. Yes?
Just to determine the courage of this congregation of yours, what's your average age?
Oh, that's a very good question. It does skew 60 plus. However, we have a growing group of 20s and 30s that has been very encouraging. Our age group that needs to grow more is our families and children. Middle and high school children, a lot of them have graduated now, and I think because of the pandemic and all the extra things going on, we don't have a large middle and high school contingency, but across the board we have a variety of ages at Woodland.
When I was in a 6-year exile with Presbyterian Homes and Services as Vice President of Development, we began to look at trying to expand. And
Yes.
the thing that kept us from expanding was land.
Right.
The land was so expensive, we couldn't put a
Right.
facility in that we wanted. The Midway project originally started with Presbyterian Homes.
Wow.
We were first asked to come in, and the name on it was our name, which I'm glad they kept. But anyway, we began to look and came up with the idea of these small congregations that were struggling to keep their buildings up. St. Andrews in Owensboro, Oklahoma Presbyterian in Louisville, had 5 to 10 acres around them that was their property. So we began to consult with them and talk about them becoming the mother church, the chapel in the middle.
Right.
Building a community around them. That never got any further than the talk stage. You've taken it further.
Wow.
So thank you.
Wow.
Because I think it's a great plan. The other issue is with our homes, as we know, everybody can attest to that. When the Marriott and all the hotels started coming into building retirement centers, the church facilities can't keep up with that. I mean, we're against a real corporate competitor there that builds better places than we build. And this is a case that they're gonna get quality. I think it's a great plan, Christy, Joe. Kudos.
Thank you.
Okay? Great job.
We are just grateful that God entrusted us with this story and this project, and we have committed to learn everything that there is to learn through such rapid transformation and growth in so many ways that we can expect and not expect.
Have you talked about the utilities?
Not having,
Maintenance.
all of the maintenance and utilities will be covered by Winterwood, our building project folks. So that means that all of the money that we used to funnel into the building can now funnel into our ministry and outreach, which is just tremendous.
Do you know, anything about the general housing need in Lexington? Can you speak to that at all, for seniors or for?
I could pull up some staggering statistics. We know that in the next 10 or so years, the biggest population in Lexington will be our seniors. And a lot of seniors are wanting to age in place. And it's complicated to find a very good housing situation for them, especially with how expensive it is. But I couldn't pull any numbers right off the top of my head, but we know that affordable housing, and especially for seniors, is one of the greatest needs. I mean, I think they said that we need, over 500 units immediately right now, and I'm being very conservative with that number. We have, it's a crisis in Lexington. Yep. Thank you all so much for sharing, but I don't want to let you off the hook just yet, because I know that I'm in a room full of a lot of wisdom. I am still very early in my career, and not that everyone has to share, but you've just heard a little bit about how I'm getting my feet wet in my first 5 years of solo ministry. I think a part-time associate is coming soon, and I've had one here and there, but I wonder if you have any wisdom that you would like to share with me as I continue this journey with this church. I don't want to miss any wisdom, please.
Healthcare services.
Yes.
Will that be offered at this?
We hope to partner with nonprofits and healthcare services to come to our location so our residents don't have to leave. That is a dream. I would love to hire a part-time social worker to help us with that.
Yeah.
We have to continue working on growing our operating budget and learning how exactly we can reallocate our dollars. Right now we are paying rent for where we are temporarily relocated, so once that money is freed up, we'll really be able to have an idea of just how much partnership we can do. But yes, and Woodland's location is a very central hub, not only close to a park, but also to a grocery store, and it's right beside UK's campus, which is close to all the hospitals and whatnot too. But we do plan to have medical nonprofits help
And mental
with our
health.
residents. Yeah, yes, most certainly.
Right. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say that, I think a lot of churches struggle with a lack of vision. And I think that's the death of the church.
Right.
And I think, your church obviously has a vision that is giving it life. And, I applaud you for that. I'm learning from you.
Thank you.
It's awesome.
Thank you. Let's just give God a hand then and say thanks be to God. Thank you all so much for taking the time to hear our story.
Advice?
Please.
Keep doing what you're doing.
Okay. I will be lifted by your prayers.
Since 1908, Woodland Christian Church, Disciples of Christ, has been more than just a place of worship in the heart of Lexington. It has been a beacon of faith, hope, and community service, offering support to countless people across generations. Today, as we face new challenges, we're asking for your help to ensure Woodland's legacy continues as a vibrant center for worship, service, and community care.
Our historic church building has served as a welcoming space for community gatherings, from neighborhood association meetings to AA groups, mental health support groups, fitness classes, and as a safe space for children attending summer camps at Woodland Park. Our commitment to serving both our congregation and community has never wavered. During the pandemic, we took time to reflect on how much of our space is underutilized and began to imagine the possibilities. This period also highlighted the importance of re-examining our investments to sustain and grow our ministries, ensuring a vibrant and welcoming community for years to come. We realized the need for significant updates to make our vision sustainable, a way to not only restore our beautiful historic church, but also to serve our community in a new way.
When an architect report revealed that we needed over $1 million for baseline repairs, We didn't know what our future would hold. Would we be forced to sell our land or even this historic building we love? Even though we are small in numbers, we are mighty in faith, and we dared to believe that God wasn't finished with us or our story. When we connected with Winterwood, it felt like a miracle unfolding. Winterwood's team had a bold and brilliant vision, a community partnership that would allow Woodland to restore our sanctuary, renovate ministry spaces, and create 38 affordable senior housing units on our property. This vision is a win-win, a way to keep our congregation thriving while meeting a vital need for affordable housing right here in Lexington, Kentucky.
We believe our partnership with Winterwood is more than innovative, it's unique. This project can become a model for other congregations seeking to address the growing need for affordable housing while remaining active faith communities.
There is a real need for affordable senior housing, and integrating it into our church allows us to expand our ministry in new and profound ways.
This building partnership with Winterwood will allow Woodland Christian Church to remain at the corner of East High and Kentucky Avenue and become an even brighter beacon of hope and healing, not just for our members, but for the broader community of Lexington.
As we came to grips with the reality of our situation, we could have seen it as a fatal emergency. Instead, our faithful church and its leaders saw it as an emergence of something new. As we've worked to find the path through our wilderness journey, our vision has grown. We see Woodland becoming Lexington's mother church, a center of healing, partnership, and service that nourishes the mind, body, and spirit of all who walk through our doors. To make this vision a reality, we're inviting you to join us in our capital campaign as we seek to raise $200,000. These funds will enable us to live into our vision of becoming a performing arts space for the community by updating our sanctuary with state-of-the-art lighting, sound, and video equipment, and to furnish newly configured ministry spaces. By giving, you're helping us preserve a historic space and prepare it for a vibrant future of service and faith.
Over the years, we've seen that we can accomplish far more in partnership than we can alone. We invite you to join us in this wild and holy journey. Be part of our story. An investment in Woodland is an investment in the future of our church, our community, and in hope itself.